I guess we all need to have a little faith. Hello! Welcome back to Fiends and Final Girls, our little corner of the internet where horror fans and weirdos alike gather for some killer reviews, deep dive analyses, and just general spooky shenanigans. Grab your emotional support monster and dim the lights. Today we're going to be taking a dive into the devilishly delightful world of my best friend's Exorcism. A nostalgic horror comedy that blends some 1980s nostalgia with a little bit of horror comedy and a whole lot of demonic possession. So let's get to it. Picture this. Charleston, South Carolina. It's the late 1980s. Big hair, leg warmers, garish makeup. Mixtapes are all of the rage. We get to meet Abby Rivers, who is discovering that high school isn't all mall trips and Madonna. She has a best friend, her name is Gretchen Lang. Gretchen starts acting just a little strange after getting lost in the woods on a girls' trip gone horribly, horribly wrong. And by strange or weird, I mean full-blown demonic possession. But before diving into that part of it, let's take a look at the actual heart of the book. It's Abby and Gretchen's relationship. Abby and Gretchen, they come from very different socioeconomic backgrounds. They're very, very different families. Abby, it comes from a working class family, has had to work for everything that she has. She is in this private school on a scholarship. She also has to work at TCBY treats for a little bit of pocket money because her parents just don't have it. Gretchen, on the other hand, she comes from a very upper class background. Her tuition is cash paid and she gets to enjoy all the privileges that come from having wealthy parents. Even though they're very different, and Abby and Gretchen are very different in that regard, they do end up developing a very tight, unshakable bond that gets very tested once Gretchen starts dealing with the demonic possession portion of the program. I'm gonna try to do as much synopsis of this as I can without getting into too many spoilery details. Hopefully I give you guys just enough to tempt you to want to read this book. As you can see here, I started to annotate this thing, and then about halfway into it, a little more than halfway into it, I think, I just got sucked in and I gave up on the annotation portion of it because I just really wanted to get in and enjoy the story, which starts in, honestly, it's a very sweet way how this starts. So it's Abby Rivers' 9th birthday and her parents are throwing her a birthday skating rink, and she invites most of her class and nobody shows up except for one girl who was reluctantly brought there by her parents, Gretchen Lang. Gretchen showing up didn't just kind of make Abby's birthday, but it ended up being the thing that hooked the two of them together, and it's what ended up forming the bond that became a lifelong relationship. It's a bit awkward in the beginning, but what Gretchen ends up giving Abby for a gift is a Bible. Her parents are they're Reagan conservatives, so they thought the perfect gift for a 9-year-old girl in the early 1980s was a Bible. Well, even though it was kind of an odd gesture, if not a little bit thoughtful, it ended up being what foreshadows what's to come between Gretchen and Abby. My best friend's Exorcism is just as much about the power of friendship, sort of not just the power of friendship, but also the shield that a close friendship will provide, just as much as it is about battling demonic forces. If that sounds like a funny combination, it really is. It's actually a ton of fun. Abby and Gretchen's bond is incredibly relatable to any of us especially us girls who grew up through middle and high school, especially with a very, very close friend. But because of such an authentic relationship between Abby and Gretchen, it does make the stakes feel so much higher and much more real when things go completely sideways. Their friendship actually reminded me a lot of my friendship through middle and high school. We did everything together. We were always around. When I started driving, almost daily, we were together. So I kind of had some, even though my relationship started in the mid-90s, it was a full 10 years post when Gretchen and Abby's story started. I think the story of a teenage girl friendship, it transcends time. So I think that's why even at 39 years old, it's still incredibly relatable to me. Getting into why everybody is here, the horror portion of the program. My best friend's Exorcism doesn't hold back on the horror part at all. Grady Hendrix, he didn't really pull any punches. A lot of it gets kind of gross, kind of dark. You get everything in here from creepy crawlies to unsettling behavior changes to hardcore manipulations of friends and preying on people's insecurities and those types of things. Once you really start, and it's ugly. It has the 80s sheen on it, but Hendrix still doesn't soften any of the blows. He really is good at getting in there and telling you the nitty-gritty details of everything that's happening to everybody. In this core friend group. It's not just Abby and Gretchen. They have two other friends one's named Margaret, one's named Glee. And all four of them are affected by Gretchen's demonic possession. The possession, it takes hold slowly at first. We're kind of inching into what's going on. We think it's just the aftermath of what happened with the girls' trip weekend until it starts becoming a little bit more out of control and unhinged. So it starts with Gretchen becoming a bit more withdrawn. She neglects her personal hygiene. She's bathing in Benetton perfume to cover the stench of her BO. It's really bad. Her hair starts getting very greasy. She's wearing the same clothes over and over again, not washing them. She's very disheveled. She starts to isolate herself from everyone, including Abby. After weeks of going through this transformation and getting progressively more gross, one day, overnight, she's not in school one day, comes back the next day, and she's transformed into an absolute complete bombshell. Haircut, clean, everything. She looks perfectly normal. Her skin is cleared up the whole bit. She's radiant, she's confident. She's the picture of perfection, really. Suddenly she got everybody in school's attention. There is something really unsettling about Gretchen's behavior. While she may look normal, she's not acting normal. She's not the Gretchen that Abby knows. And it's because of this slow and steady change initially in the beginning is what makes that horror portion feel so real and so grounded. As the possession deepens and the demon spirit, whatever it is, really has its hooks in Gretchen completely, Gretchen starts lashing out all of her friends. All of them. All three of the girls, Abby, Margaret, and Glee, they all feel, I guess, the wrath of the Gretchen monster in very different ways. Started as unsettling pranks to kind of manipulate the girls' insecurities, but then it evolves into something much darker and actually potentially either causes real harm or gets very, very close, depending on which of the girls we're talking about here. Even though it is the demon is indirectly affecting Margaret and Glee, it's directly attacking Abby. Abby seems to be the main target of this creature's wrath for one reason or another. It starts preying on Abby's insecurities in terms of her looks. She wears a ton of makeup. She doesn't love her skin. She's kind of, in the book she's described, I don't say she's described as homely, but she's very plain looking. So she wants to be Madonna. So she's ramping up the makeup and she is playing with her looks, and she's still a 16-year-old girl who wants to be fashionable and fit in with all of that stuff. The demon causes Abby's skin to break out in these painful sores and pustules that she just keep layering that makeup on to try to cover them up. It's getting really bad in that regard. The demon starts orchestrating all of these events to push Abby's friends away, her family, eventually her parents. Even though her mom is a bit arm's length, she's still very supportive of her daughter in the beginning, and that all completely goes away. At that point, Abby's world has crumbled and it leaves her completely vulnerable. There is nothing. There are no shields to hide behind it, which once Abby's parents turn on her is when Abby really gets the urge to fight back. It's okay, it's no more let's play the wait and see game. It's time to go. So she takes up her sword and her shields, metaphorically speaking, to take down whatever this demon is. But she can't do it alone. Like, she's a 16-year-old girl. She has no clue what she's doing. She's not particularly religious or spiritual in any way. Her belief system is sort of just whatever basic societal expectations are. There is no deep belief. We enter Christian Lemon, which is a super fun name, and his name being Christian is a bit on the nose, but whatever. Christian Lemon is an unlikely attempt at a hero if there ever was one. He is a bodybuilder, and he's a part of this traveling team of fitness-obsessed evangelists with his dad and his brother. We first get to see him during a school assembly at the private school that Gretchen and Abby attend. It does have a Bible element to it. So these guys show up to put on a show, and during the performance, the middle of this assembly, Christian singles out Gretchen. She's very close to the stage. He can see what no one else can. He's got this gift of perception, and he notices that there's a shadow of something over Gretchen. It's a very brief moment, but Christian does call out, I guess because he doesn't know exactly what it is at the time, but he does call out Gretchen and points a finger directly at her and says, "I see something on you," and to which obviously Gretchen is like, okay, whatever. That's when Abby goes, okay, I might have an ally here. There is somebody who will believe me, because up until this point, nobody believes her. They all think that, and again, due to the influence of the demon, they all think that Abby is the instigator and Gretchen's just going through something, and that's why she was the way she was for so long. Abby goes, she gets a card, she seeks out Christian as a last-ditch effort to save Gretchen. She hasn't been able to make anything else work at this point. He agrees to help. It really doesn't take much, just a little sit-down conversation in a mall food court is really all that it takes. Because he has such a deep conviction of faith, like there is a lot of the surface level stuff with the bodybuilding show, I guess. Like he's got the bodybuilding evangelist show with his brothers, but underneath all of that, it's not just for show. He is a genuine believer and he genuinely has faith. So he's willing to take the risk and help this girl out to save her friend. Eventually we do get into the exorcism itself. I will spare you the details because I really think it is worth reading. So I'm not going to spoil a lot of that. The exorcism becomes chaotic. It's intense. There's all kinds of, it's equal parts of horrifying moments and silly comedy. There's a good balance there between the two. I think Grady Hendrix walks that line really well between trying to unsettle you and make you laugh. Christian goes into this exorcism. His methods are unorthodox, to say the least. They're not anything a normal human would look at and be like, yeah, no, that totally makes sense. They're violent and they're rough, especially when you consider on the receiving end of this is the body of a teenage girl. What ends up ultimately happening is the demon is outsmarting Christian, and the claws are just in so deep, and with Christian being a novice exorcist, he just doesn't have the skill to take on something this bad. He also struggles with Abby's conscience because this is her friend and she sees her friend as being hurt and, oh my God, you're gonna kill her. It creates a battle that it's mostly unpredictable, but it's very engaging. It's a very gripping one. Like you really are wanting to see how far this escalates and where it ends up going. There's projectile vomiting, there's psychological manipulations. The demon is throwing everything, literally almost everything but the kitchen sink at both Abby and Christian in this scene. After hours of fight and Christian basically tapping out everything he knows from assisting his dad with these exorcism cases, he runs away. He completely abandons Abby alone. So he abandons two 16-year-old girls alone in a beach house with a demon. Abby is left alone with whatever this nasty, dark force is. It's wild. After reading that, I sat back and I just was like, this motherfucker, you just abandoned a kid. Never came back. But what truly ends up standing out is Abby's unwavering love and determination to help her friend. We do catch glimpses of Gretchen managing to break free of the demon for a couple minutes at a time. She gets a little bit of autonomy through all of this, so we do get Gretchen's able to talk to Abby, and she wants this. She wants the exorcism to happen. She doesn't care. Get this thing out at all costs, because for months it's been tormenting her and ruining her life. Even as the demon itself phases in and takes control of Gretchen again, we still end up with the demon trying to exploit every doubt and insecurity that Abby has. It tries to exploit on her lack of conviction. It's because she's not steadfast in her faith like Christian was. She's just sort of, I describe her as agnostic at best. When Christian falters, that's really when Abby takes control, and it's an unconventional exorcism to say the least, because it's the power of her shared moments and her friendship with Gretchen that ends up driving the demon out. It really is an emotional, gut-wrenching moment that does solidify Abby as the true hero of the story. Most of the book is told through Abby's eyes. It's her point of view. We're following her, and she's not just the protagonist. She does and ultimately end up becoming the hero. After finishing the exorcism scene, I kind of sat back a little bit and took a breath, and I just thought this moment between the two teenage girls was so sweet, and it was so, I got a little bit emotional about it. I wouldn't say choked up, but I got the warm fuzzies you were supposed to get from the ending of a scene like that. Yeah, it's kind of corny. Love conquers all. The solution the whole time was friendship. Like, yeah, it's definitely a corny trope, but the way that this book was framed and the details that Hendrix decided to add into this is what kind of softens the corniness quite a bit. It's much more sweet than anything else. Final thoughts on my best friend's exorcism. I actually had a ton of fun reading this book. The last third of the book especially, it had me in a chokehold. I couldn't put it down. I really needed to. Once I definitely hit a point where I was like, no, I'm gonna finish this. And it was like the middle of the night. So it was one of those books where I was like, I'm not going to sleep until I'm done. It's not very long. It's only like only like 330 pages or so. If you have nothing to do, it's definitely one you could just sit down and read in a couple of hours. The whole book is a super breezy read. It keeps quite a consistent pace. It doesn't really hit any lulls or dead spots. It just, there's always something going on. The emotional payoff at the end, it hit me right in the feels. I ended up smiling. I got the warm fuzzies in my chest with just how beautiful the relationship between Abby and Gretchen was. There is a movie adaptation of it that came out a few years ago. I'm curious to see what that looks like. I'm kind of hoping that it holds up in comparison. Is it going to capture the horror, the heart, and the humor? Fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. Go out, grab a copy, go to your library, read it on Kindle or whatever. I think you're gonna get a few hours of enjoyment out of it for sure. And just for funsies, I made a playlist. Every chapter in the book is a song title. There is a ton of 80s music referenced throughout the whole thing. So I thought it'd be super fun. I'm gonna be sharing my best friend's exorcism playlist on both Apple and Spotify. So links down below. It was inspired by all of that 1980s goodness. So if you're nostalgic or you just enjoy 1980s pop and new wave, like, I think this is gonna be right up your alley. Well, what do you think? Have you already experienced this book, or have you seen the movie? Do you think the movie itself is worth checking out if you have? Keep the conversation going in the comments below. If you enjoyed my ramblings here, go ahead and click on one of the recommended videos to watch another one, and hopefully you'll get more enjoyment out of those. And if you enjoy me that much, no pressure, but subscribe and hit the bell icon to get updates on all of my episodes that drop. This is a fledgling channel and I am getting my feet under me, so I appreciate any and all support and you gifting me with your time. It's the best gift of all. I swear, gifting your time. Till next time, darlings, stay curious, stay weird, and remember, all of the best stories hide in the dark.